Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Wrath, and we're back today in Hellion. Today we're going to be going off and doing our mining now that we've got all of our setup done. But I wanted to address some questions that came in from a couple of different users. The first of which is a question on how I decide to set up my base, and the first of those is the layout. What as an experienced player, what are the choices that I make for my base? And really, when it comes to the arrangement of modules, it tends to be haphazard a little bit. The major issue that I had early on when I put together this base was that I did not make a space specifically for my ship, that is, for the airlock. And so I found myself in a situation where I could not actually dock my ship to the airlock of my station because the other modules were in the way. Because if you look, that ship is really damn big. It's a lot bigger than you realize when you're running around it and stuff. You don't realize how big it is in comparison to the other modules. And so, like, I used to have the airlock over there where the fabricator is. The fabricator used to be where the power unit is, and the power unit used to be over there. But in that situation, I couldn't attach the airlock to either the extension here or there, where it would actually have room to get enough clearance for the ship to dock. It's actually a fairly big issue when you're trying to maneuver this ship around, that you remember that it is actually a beastly sized ship, and so docking it is not an easy prospect. Now, with that being said, what I ended up doing was moving the power over here, moving the fabricator over there, and putting the docking directly onto the station, because that was what was the most expedient for my needs. Beyond that, generally I advise that you use, because the one thing you'll run into is that when you get a command module, the inside of there looks almost identical. So when you're in a hurry, you can get lost in the middle of your own station for no good reason. And so what I usually recommend is this little side here is the elevator shaft, or the vertical ascent shaft that leads up to the command deck on top. And so I say use that as a guidepost for frame of reference, which is I put service base modules that are, basically part of the base facilities on those two that are right next to it, so that I can identify them quickly based on their association with the door that's at the base of that one. And then I can make an association based from there on which door is the one to the cargo bay and which one is the door to the airlock. And that's really the only thing I'm working off of right now. Now, I intend to get some additional modules tacked onto this, and so that's probably going to change the layout a little bit. What I generally recommend when it comes to laying out your station is do what makes sense for you. All right, and that sounds like a cop-out, I know, but in the end, it's really what matters is, does the setup you have work for you? Does it do what you want it to do? Does it provide enough of a... Does it provide enough maneuvering, basically, for you to get all the things that you want on without it being crowded? Like, if you want to have 3 or 4 ships, consider the fact that if you're going to have 3 or 4 ships, you're going to need to have an extended hallway or some other way of spreading out those ships, because you're not going to really be able to dock them front to back with any real ease. And especially if you're going to build purpose-built ships like a Raider build, or a build that I've been toying around for extended mining, which would be ships that have a permanent attachment at the back of the ship for a specific use. Like the Raider build that I came up with is to actually find another docking module, or not a module, another outpost module, and an airlock, and strap them to the back of the ship so that you can carry them around with you. Then you can load out the bottom of the cargo bay here with extra suits, weapons, and gear, and fill it up in the station. And then when you go to attack somewhere that you know has like gun turrets and stuff like that, you have supplies on hand ready to go. And if you die, you can respawn on site and continue the fight. But for today, we're focused on mining, so we're going to go ahead and get this all together here. So right now, I don't have a second airlock, so I have to go out through the cargo bay here. So while this is pressurizing, we'll go ahead and go through the setup that I've put together. Now I cleared out all the extra stuff, so we have only the empty mining cans, a spare jetpack in case we need additional air fuel in an emergency. We've got a number of these refill cans so that we can refill our oxygen and nitro in progress. We have 2 spare drills, but we're going to be focusing on using this one here with the can already attached. We've got 12 extra batteries there, and an additional, what is this, another 12 over here, and we have a total of, let's see here, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 36, 37, 38 cans to mine from. So that is a fairly good haul. That's pretty much enough to fill up the cargo bay if we need to. And I'm probably going to run out and try and catch myself an industrial container as well, or 2, to slap onto the back of the cargo bay so that we have an even larger increase to its capacity. And we're just waiting for this to finish cycling so we can go upstairs. I've spread out the suits. I do have a spare suit upstairs in the ship, as well as an EVA suit, which has about 3 times the normal oxygen. One of the other things is that I went ahead and fabricated this little guy, which is an ore scanner for the asteroids, so that we can actually see what we're going to mine, and we can do purpose mining. Because otherwise, you kind of take a crapshoot. You land somewhere on the asteroid, and if you don't happen to find the right material, well, you're just shit out of luck, and that's not something I'm really cool with. So now I have a personal habit of getting insanely close. Oop, we're ready to go. I have a personal habit of getting insanely close. Oop, I should have closed that. Of getting insanely close to the asteroids, and basically all but parking my ship on the asteroids themselves. It allows for a quick cycle time, and I don't know if they've patched that out or not. I've heard some conflicting stories about an unseen barrier around the asteroids, but then again, that might simply be inexperienced pilots not knowing how to get in close to the asteroids. Now, before we get started, see, this is what I mean. I had to sort of figure this out, and I've somebody else pointed out that there was an issue of volume with like the doors being super loud. So I've gone ahead and put like a 15 decibel limit on the volume of the actual game as it's being recorded in my software. So hopefully that will make it easier for people to hear as I'm running around and doing stuff and all these doors are cycling around me. So let's go ahead and refill this before we head out. And a little nitro. Now this is the stock that I have just in the outpost here, and then I've got a large stock of materials, but we're going to go ahead and take a look here. So we're going to want the material that produces helium-3, and we're going to want oxygen. So that's going to be dry ice primarily. Those are the 2 that we're going to want the most of. when we go mining. And I forgot to grab my jetpack. Be a slow day in hell as I freaking suffocate myself with my own helmet. That would have been hilariously sad. And so the setup I've got right now is this is the way out, and then that's the cargo bay. Now I did screw up when I came back. There's a glitch in the game right now that when you come back to your station, there is a chance that all of the plugged in modules that you have in your station will glitch out and not show up. And you have to relog, but I had forgotten that, so I went and I put a bunch of tier 2 parts into my reactor thinking that I had to replace them because they'd all burned out or whatever, which was not the case. And so when I relogged, basically I lost all of those, a full set of tier 2 reactor parts. So a containment field generator, a resource injector, and four of the tier 2 catalysts, which I am none too pleased about. But with seeing how it was kind of easy to get those, and we've had a spot of luck in that regard, I'm not gonna sweat it too much. So we're gonna head and close off there. Now I know I've got a dead fuel cell here somewhere, so let's go ahead and take a look here. And that would be you. And there's the new 30% one. What's this one got? That one is also dead. And what about you? Okay, so that one's at 25%. That one goes there. And we'll go ahead and put these two up front for now so that we can send them off to the fabricator later for recycling. Alright. There's also another glitch with these crates where they will look closed even when they're open. So it's just better off to just close them to be sure. Alright, so we've been cut free from the station. Oh wait, I gotta go turn the reactor on. Sorry. Always forgetting important elements here. And as you can see, I've used the extra parts that we have to make sure that the ship is fully tricked out with all the parts that it needs. And we're going to go ahead and kick on our reactor, and then we're going to get going. Alright, so again, we've also left the singularity cell detonator back at home just to be on the safe side. And let's go ahead and turn the FTL on. And let's take control of the ship and move it away. And some of you may notice that I've changed the name of the station. And that was, I've actually used a recommendation from one of my subscribers who offered up the name Steinbeck as a name for either the ship or the station. I liked it for the station, so I renamed the station Fort Steinbeck. So to the subscriber who put that forward, thank you very much for your input. I very much appreciate it, and I will put it to good use. All right, so now that we're in, and as you can see, I've got a fairly large orbit around Beth here, and that's specifically so that even if somebody finds my orbit or knows what my orbit roughly is, their mathematical chance of actually finding me is fairly small, because the actual scan range here, if you'll notice, nothing's going to show up besides the asteroid belt. Alright? So the asteroid belt shows up, but nothing here, nothing around there except for the ones that are broadcasting problems. But nothing else shows up because the range of this scanner is actually only about 50,000 kilometers. And the actual distance of my orbit, which is not actually showing up here because I'm looking at a different object, The distance of my orbit is in excess of 200 kilometers from end to end. So being able to be in the right spot in this orbit, even if you can find the exact right orbit, being in that orbit doesn't mean you'll actually ever find me, because you have to land somewhere within 50 kilometers or so of, or 50,000 kilometers of my position, which is basically like a 5-degree arc on this orbit. It's genuinely a hard target to hit. It's mathematically improbable that even somebody searching for me will be able to find me. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick an asteroid. Let's see, that's an O1. They have these designations. So those are class O2s. So let's see, N1, N02, N03. Let's go for this O2 because it looks like it's the shortest distance. So we'll go ahead and make that our target. It doesn't really matter to me, in all honesty. And we're going to go ahead and fire up the warp drive, initialize, and we're going to turn the ship to face that warp jump point. Now, in my last video, I showed you how to do a free return, which is a low-cost jump in order to use a gravity assist, basically, to reduce your fuel expenditure by expending a large amount of time. And if you were watching when I was showing that off, it was an extremely large amount of time, in excess of like 3 hours, you know. So if you have that kind of time to burn, then by all means, do it. Or if you have, make the jump. Or if you, I hate how loud that is. It kind of tones down after it's been running for a little bit, but that initial spool up of the warp is very, very loud. But you know, if you have like a module that you're pulling behind you, you can, you know, take some time to do something there, or otherwise just do something to keep yourself occupied. But it can be extremely boring if you have like 3 hours to kill in a ship like this, because that's a lot of dead time. Now, since it's going to take us about 4 minutes, I want to go ahead and start the depressurization process in here, because that's going to be more time than I'm willing to really spend. So I'm going to go ahead and start that depressurizing now. And by the time I get in position, it should be depressurized. So the way that this works is basically we're going to use both the airlock and the door for our mining. We're going to go down and we've depressurized it, and we can actually open the door from the elevator shaft to the outside. So like instead of like opening the local door there, we can issue it a command to open the exterior door, and then we can go out through the airlock and lock that up behind us to get in, to come around the front and get into the actual mining. And that's really the way we're going to work, is just because the amount of time it takes to depressurize that thing is really obnoxious. It's like if you look at the life support, it's 860 units of air. That's a lot. I mean, that takes almost a minute per 100 units of air to be able to. Let's turn our scrubber on here just to keep things going here, because that air quality, I don't like that getting that low. But when this comes down this much, it's really difficult to try and not get a little bit of a pain in the butt. Like every time I have to cycle through that, it just is an absolute toxic pain in the butt, because you end up sitting there for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes just waiting for the whole thing to cycle. And I'm going to give myself a chip here while we're waiting. Sorry, I'm snacking a little bit. I'm hungry. Can't be helped. I skipped lunch today, so you're catching me in the after work pre-dinner snack mode. So once we get on site with the mining, I'm going to show you how this whole process works. All right, I gotta stop that because that's probably going to be like super obnoxious in the recording. Take a little drink, and let's get ready. Now, hopefully I did the jump right, and we'll come out a couple of 100 meters away from the actual asteroid. If not, then it might be a bit of a jog. Oh, shoot. We've come out a little bit out. And I think we may have either found somebody else mining, or what is more likely is that somebody died out here with their ship. So we may actually be able to get sort of a double bonus on this one. Now, unfortunately, we're flying like right into the sun. So what I'm doing is, you see that bar at the bottom of my screen? I'm using that as my judge in order to determine when I should stop accelerating and when I should start slowing down. That is actually a very useful tool, because as long as you keep the two lines on the outside of the center inner bracket that's expanding, then you're moving at a relatively decent speed for your distance. So I'm moving at roughly 219 meters a second, which is good for me. But as I get closer, I'm going to want to start decelerating. So you can see that it's getting a little close, so we're going to start backpedaling off the acceleration here, slowing ourselves down so that they don't get too close. And I'm having to look at the left-hand side as my gauge, because I can't look into the directly at the star. It just hurts my eyes too much. It would be even worse if I had bloom turned on. But I generally turn bloom off because I find that it makes the warp visuals just too blinding for my eyes to tolerate. So, and as you can see, we're down to about 5 kilometers pretty quick. You can usually use, for these kind of maneuvers, you can usually use the engine as a tool to help with that. But I'm not sure that... Okay, we need to slow down a lot because I don't know where is that ship. Okay, it's in close proximity to the actual asteroid. So we may actually have somebody else mining here. Alright, so we're gonna keep cruising in. I can't believe that we actually happened upon somebody else in this whole process. So let's see, okay. And let's take a look here, because before we decide to mine here, I want to make sure that this isn't going to be a trap or something else. I want to see if this is somebody dead in their ship or what. Now they're facing the wrong way to be mining, because they're facing nose up. Maybe they drifted too far. Door's open. So are they abandoned? Let's go in for a closer look here. No, they're not. Looks like they still have parts on there. I'm not sure if they're dead in the water or what. So let's go ahead and take a look here. This could be an abandoned ship, and if it is, then maybe we can tow it home and hack the controls and get something good out of it. Because otherwise, it's going to be kind of worthless to us. So we'll see. It does have some structural damage, it looks like, based on that flashing light on the bottom left-hand side there. Well, let's see if we can get a little closer to this here and see, because we have to get really close before we can see inside. Let's see if there's anybody home. Let's get a little closer. Get a little closer. And let's see what's going on. Alright, do I have my gun on me? I think I do. Yes, I do. Okay. Let's go take a look. I gotta be careful because it's already open. So somebody might actually be out and about right now. And so we should be extra careful. Alright, let's go to the front here first and see if anybody's home. Okay, she's wide open there. Looks like there may still be some parts in there. So I can't tell if she's abandoned or not. Engine compartment's still closed off. So I'm thinking that maybe somebody dropped it. She's vented. Okay. So, oh, ouch. She's vented and falling apart. It looks like it's been fully cleared out. So maybe she lost all her warp cells. She's been raided for sure. Check the cargo hold real quick, see if they left anything behind there. Seeing as it's been left open like this, I doubt that there's... Oops. Open that door. I doubt that they would leave anything in here. No. Oh! I stand corrected. I'll have that. I don't need an extra torch, though. Alright. Now, she's still a named ship, so let's see if we can see who owns her. Whoever it is, obviously abandoned ship. But let's see here. The Tin Bin, owned by Major Tom. And she is basically a junk pile. So, crew-wise, crew's not coming back for this one. And it's in too sorry of a state that I would even bother with it. But just to be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and maneuver our ship to the other side of the asteroid. And you may commonly find this, where you'll find a ship that is basically just junk floating in space. These are actually really good places. If you can find one that's not controlled by someone or owned by someone, then you have a chance of taking ownership of it. And for people who are abandoning their ships, make sure to release your ownership of it. Or if not that, then set it to self-destruct. All right, because you're just burning resources for the server, and that can be a real pain in the butt for everybody. So try to do the right thing. Either release it so that somebody else, if they find it, can try to claim it, or or something along those lines. So we're going to go ahead and leave the tin bin here, and we're going to go ahead and remaneuver ourselves around the other side of this asteroid. And just to be on the safe side here, going to turn on our lights so that our ship is projecting some light, because we're probably going onto the dark side of this asteroid here. Now, maneuvering around these asteroids can be very, very tricky. I generally advise you to keep your nose towards the asteroid, just for safety purposes. And for if Major Tom is actually watching some of these videos, I'd love to hear what led you to abandon your ship at the asteroid. Was it a lack of fuel, or what? Because that's definitely an interesting. I would like to hear that story as to why you abandoned your ship so easily. Like you guys have seen in my videos, I've had no compunction about cycling through ships through the recovery process in order to get myself additional resources that I needed to do stuff. But I don't think that I've ever just up and abandoned a ship without a fight, especially if it has something on it that that I need. And it looks like that one has either been raided or potentially cleared out by its owner. So I'm not sure how that all works out for that particular user. Okay, we're gonna have to pirouette here on our nose, because we're gonna swing around this thing. Oh, too much. Okay, and a little bit thrust downward, please. Okay, where's a good spot that I want to tuck in? I like that spot right there. Oh no, I like this one on the left better. Alright, so we're going to tuck in real close to this asteroid. We're going to speed up here and zero out our lateral motion. Alright, so we're going to set our nose there. And like before, we have to be careful that we don't, like with when we were doing the setup on the station, we want to get close to the bottom without actually bottoming out. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do this at 100 meters. See, you can get super close to these things, but you got to remember that that reading of distance is the center of the asteroid, not the ground level. So let's match here. I think we might be too close. Alright, let's go and check. Open the door here. Now that this is already depressurized, we should be able to open the outer door from here and take a look and see where we stand. Okay, that looks like we can probably work that. So let's go ahead and go back up. And we're going to lock down the ship. And we actually don't need this can right now because it's full of junk. And we're going to leave the torch because we're not going to need that either. Alright, so open up the airlock here. Now I'm keeping my gun on me because you never know. Let's go ahead and depressurize. Put our helmet on. Take out our gun. Alright, and out into space we go. Turn our jetpack on. And let's go down to the cargo bay. Let's see how well we did the alignment here. Because I've actually parked this thing once so close to the ground that the bottom of it was almost touching. But that does not appear to be the case this time around. But that's okay. Oh wait, hold on. Before we do that, because I'm paranoid and I want to remain as a paranoid person, let's close this door. Don't know why that's such a big deal for me, but it is. Oh, my nose itches here. Now the batteries, each of the batteries can basically run one use, or 2 cans, or close to 2 cans, but not quite, for the drill. So you have to be mindful of that. And we're going to go ahead and take one of those and 2 of those. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 spares. And we actually have to leave one behind because we need room for this guy. Alright, so first order of business is to go ahead and... Now does this fit in that bottom one? No, it doesn't. Okay. So now we're going to scan. Alright, nitrate materials, that is not what we're looking for. So we're going to keep scanning. Dry ice, that is what we're looking for. Alright, so we can mine right here. Let's see how far this goes. Nitrate minerals. So when I scanned and got dry ice, it's actually that hill over there. That's the dry ice. Nitrate materials. What are you? Dry ice. Okay, so we'll do this lump here as our guidepost here. Alright, so this is dry ice. And we now know that this is dry ice, so we don't need to rescan it later. And there's a trick. You can actually hit the Y button and be able to take your hands off the controls and it will keep mining. Otherwise you have to hold your hand on it. And I like a little bit of hands-free. So always remember to cycle your radar if you can. In this case I can't because I got that going here. There we go. So we're going to watch for any other ships to show up or for anything to change on that. Because honestly, you never know. Okay, we need to take control of this again. because we're almost finished. Alright, so we're at capacity. So the way that these drills work is that you hold down the R button and you get this little menu. And then you use your mouse wheel to highlight which one you want to remove. So I'm removing the can, and that goes into my inventory. And so now I'm going to let this can go and hit F to reattach it to the drill. And now we're going to continue mining. Now, like I said, the mining is time consuming. There's really no way around it. And what'll happen is that we'll get about most of the way through this can, and that battery's going to run out. So we'll have to swap out the battery just before the end, and then we'll be able to swap out the other can as well. And each of the cans has 150 capacity, so we're going to base our plans off of the fact that it's going to need to, we're going to do at least 10 cans of dry ice here. Okay, see how it came really close but didn't quite do it. So we're going to go ahead and again turn away, and I always do this where I'm facing away from anything here. So we're going to go ahead and drop that. Actually, oh, grab that. Don't want to do that yet. Let's go ahead and hold R again, and this time we're going to highlight the remove battery. So that'll take the battery out and put it in our inventory. So now we've got the dead battery there. We can drop that one, hit F again to grab it and drop it in, and now we're ready to continue. Alright, so that's full. So now we're going to again repeat the process. Hold the R. Oops, we pulled the battery. Okay. Pull that battery back out. Get that in there. Okay. Hold the R. Canister. And that again goes directly into our inventory because we have an open space. And so we can quickly swap these out just on the fly and get back to work. So I'm going to go ahead and try to cut this recording a little bit so that after I finish this can, I'm going to basically stop the recording, restart it so that I have a clip that I can just compress for time and do like fast forward on. And then we should have a quick montage of me mining my ever-loving heart out. So I will be right back as soon as we finish this up here, because now that we've got all our cans full, we've got to go swap out the cans. Alright, can is full. So let's go ahead and get this montage rolling. So we'll be back in just a moment. Alright, welcome back. So that took roughly about an hour. There was a little interruption while I had to go and take care of some stuff to help out. So all in all, it took about an hour for me to do about 40 cans. So not bad. We got about half of them with dry ice for oxygen for our O2 supply, which we need at base, and half of them with the supplies for warp fuel and reactor fuel. So now normally I would go ahead and at this point I would make a side trip to get some more salvage so that we would have enough to go ahead and get ourselves a few new warp cells with the materials that we're going to have. But unfortunately I did not bring enough warp cells currently with me to be able to make that a viable action. So instead we're going to go ahead and get back into our nav and fly back to base. So let's go ahead and lock onto our home station, which happens to be way the hell away from us at this point, I think. Where are we? Yeah, we're way over there. Oof, that's going to be a heck of a jump. Let's see if we've got enough fuel for that. Okay. Yep, we've just barely got enough fuel for that, so we're not going to push our luck any further. The issue with fuel is one of the reasons why when you're playing this game you should early on prioritize the tools you need to survive. When I was originally building out for the various videos that I've done in this segment since 0.2.7 actually fully released, one of the first things that I did after moving my base, but before going and getting any other parts, I went and immediately got a fabricator. Partly because I wanted to do the crafting video, but also God, I hate that sound. That sound is so loud. I know I have it turned down on the recording, but it might still be loud. But not only because I wanted to do the video on the recording, not only because I wanted to do the recording on the actual crafting system, but also because I wanted to have access to the crafting itself, because it is very useful to be able to recycle the parts that you have or parts that you don't need into new things that you do. So with that in mind, I went ahead and got that. And now that I've got a fully operational base, although there are still some parts I'd like to get, we at least at this point have all the things necessary to sustain ourselves, which is why I'm not pushing my luck with the building or running out to try and get some salvage when I know that, one, I've got more warp cells back at base. I've been using up all of the weaker and lesser ones that I have rather than digging into, I think I've got about 5 fully charged warp cells. So I'm going to be hanging on to those for use when we're ready. In the meantime, let's go ahead and go take a look at the spoils of what we got. Now I used the division in the actual hangar as a dividing line between when I would stop on certain resources, and it's a good way to divide things up because you can fit about 60 cans, as I said, in the hangar. Something's flashing down here. Oh, that's sparking. So I could easily fit 12 more and then 2 more there. So 14 more cans there. I could fit 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So yeah, I could fit another 20 cans if I was really, really up for it in here, and I could maybe even fit a few more. so that I could, I mean, like I could clear this top shelf off here and add another row of 6 more cans there if I wanted to as well. We did not use as much of these as I thought we would, but these are designed for if you're not as efficient as me. And then I even had the reserve pack here just in case. But that is, again, that's to allow you to stay as efficient as possible by running around and not having to try and switch out your jet packs, to just simply refuel as you go and keep a positive amount of air oxygen in your system. We did go through about, I want to say, 8 batteries. Because of the limit of only being able to recharge one at a time, you unfortunately got to kind of sit here and actually, let's take that one here and let's do the one that's at 78% here, because that'll charge up faster. And as you can see, you can actually watch these things recharge. It's a little boring, but you can actually do it. See, it's like slowly creeping up there. But if you keep track of the batteries, then you can basically, like I kept slotting one in here every time I would come back to cycle my cans, so that I was at least recharging 1 out of basically almost 3 batteries a trip. It's 2.5. So it helped reduce the amount of batteries I was going through. Now if you don't want to take the time to do that, you can avoid it and just focus on swapping out the batteries and doing all that. Now I probably could have done most of it in this suit directly, but the refills would not have been as effective because they would not have filled up as much percentage-wise of my tank, so I would have ended up having to, like, take 2 or 3 of them in order to make a sizable dent in whatever reserves I was losing. So it depends on your personal preference as to whether or not you want to use an EVA suit or one of the standard suits. But the standard suit with these supplies laid out is just about as good. So you don't have to feel pressured to actually have an EVA suit. It helps, but it's not a requirement. So like all of these cans have got dry ice in them, which will just convert directly into O2. And then these ones all have the new material regolith, which replaced the heavy ice as the reactor fuel producing material. And let's go ahead and put that one there and put this one on to charge. Now we should be almost done with our warp here, so I'm going to go back upstairs. And one of the things we'll have to do after we get back to the base is that we will have to take the time to recharge all those batteries. Quickest way to do that is actually at the power reactor, since it has 4 slots for items to be charged up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here for a little bit while I go ahead and get my ship into position for docking, and then we can take a look at everything from there, and we'll go through the process of seeing how much we actually got for our effort. So I will be right back once we're ready. Alrighty, everybody. Let's go ahead and finish this up here. So I've gone through and I've moved all of the resources from the ship into our refinery. Now I had to juggle some of the resources we already had on hand just so that I'd have enough room, so you can see how effective this mining process was. We came out with 3,000 regolith. That's going to be the material that gets us the helium-3. That's our reactor fuel. We got 30 ice and a little bit of dry ice from that one can that we picked up that had some materials in it already, and that also came with a few nitrates. But we basically came out with about 2.5K or 2.7K worth of dry ice. So we're going to go ahead and throw as much of this into the refinery as we can to see what we come out with. So we'll go ahead and toss 1,000 in there and let that get started. So that'll take about 5 minutes. While that's going on, we'll go ahead and grab a torch here. Let's just go ahead and refill this. Okay. Fill that up. And we'll take this and go ahead and do our repair patrol. This thing always, like, I think there's a bug in this where it always has like one spot that's in the process of decaying, even though the system reads at 100%. So I'm not sure what the issue with that is. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick pass around. What is the... Okay, it says it's at 100%, but let's just check and be sure. Alright, there's usually a spot here if there's anything. Nope. Any flashing up here? Yep, okay. And now, again, the reason why I leave most of the doors here closed is because by leaving them closed, I have security in place so that nobody can get in and take control of the station while I'm away. Because I believe you can use the hacking tools for that. Oh, that was dumb. I need to get out of there. So by putting this together, I'm basically forcing anybody that wants to try and come into my base to have to bring enough hacking tools to get through at least 4 doors and the main system. Unless they come in through there, but I'll be patching that off real soon. So we'll go ahead and just repair that. Now, like I said before we're going to be able to actually... it's just sparking again. That's obviously a glitch that they'll sort out eventually. But, because I know the system's at 100% and that's all that matters. But before we can start building the warp cells that we've just earned ourselves enough fuel to operate, we need to be able to cover all of the potential resource needs, and so we're just going through and doing our sort of repair patrol here, as I call it. Okay. So we're going to need, in the fabricator, in order to do warp cells, we will need 50 helium-3, 50 carbon fibers, and 60 alloys. Now, in the actual fabricator, we only have a few items here. So we have 6 circuits, which will help us get some better equipment. But we're fairly short on alloys. And carbon fibers we have plenty of. So we need an area to go where we're likely to get lots of broken armatures for recycling. That can be a bit of a tough spot. I think actually the place to go for that would be burner, but we'll have to check. In the meantime, let's go ahead and see what our percentage of return here. First, let's finish our repair patrol here. Oh, there it is. Okay, ship's in good condition already. So that pretty much takes care of all the damage. There's still going to be that weird sort of sparking from everything having like one spot that's basically pre-telling us that it's going to be that it's going to be the point that has to be repaired later on. But we can deal with that as it comes up. I'm not overly worried about it. So let's go ahead and see what we've got going on here. So let's check the refinery. All right, so out of that 1,000, we got 200 helium-2. So about an 80% loss, which is not great. But 200, that's 4 warp cells right there. So we can definitely keep working with that. So when you have these high exchange rates, when you do a full 1,000, you at least know how much you're getting per resource. So every 1 helium-3 is basically 5. I want to say like like 50 regolith makes 1 helium-3. So that's a pretty heavy drop off. You know, you're like an 80% loss there. But even then, you know, we're going to come out of this with about 600 helium-3, not to mention the amount that we already have stored aside. So we've got 100 stored aside in here, and that's not including what's actually in the system. So we've got nearly 100 in the ship, and just shy of 200 in the reactor. So we've got a fairly good supply that can last us a fairly long time. So let's go back and look at this here. So yeah, you can see that we're getting a little bit out of there. Not a lot, but it's enough to be happy with. We should get a much higher return on the dry ice, because the dry ice is basically I think it's like nitrous oxide, I think. I don't remember the exactly what I don't remember the exact combination or composition, or it's carbon dioxide if I remember correctly. So it's 2 oxygen and a carbon. I wonder if we'll actually get like some carbon for manufacturing out of it, because that would actually be pretty cool. Just like if we could possibly get some alloys out of nitrates, but I doubt that we would. It would be actually kind of nice to get some, since this is an ore of some kind, getting some metallic ores out of there would probably be pretty cool too. But that's something we can recommend to the devs later on down the line. So we're just processing through all this, and this will take a while for us to process through. So I wanted to go ahead and let that process while we take a look and figure out what is the next step that we want to take. So we're going to go ahead and go up to the command deck and take a look around and figure out, actually I think we're going to go and make a another warp cell right now. Or maybe we'll see what else we can make. We've come across like 6 more of the fried circuits, and so those, we could probably put those to use to something else. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do with them, because it will help us go after bigger and better things. So if we take a look at this here, there's a couple of different things that we could make. We could expend all 6 of them to make a tier 3 singularity cell detonator, and that actually wouldn't cost us too much, and that would give us access to higher end warp and would also give us a much higher fuel efficiency. So we could do that. We could also go for some higher end catalysts, but I think that that would be a small return. We don't have enough to do an actual like tier 4 singularity detonator, but I think that we could do that, or we could, let's see, do we have enough to make, we don't have enough to make a sentry gun, which would be nice, but we do have enough to make a couple of EMP grenades. And those could be are going to be very valuable to us, because those are what we're going to need in order for us to take on military installations, because the turrets are brutal and they will straight jack you up without much hesitation or difficulty. Let's see here. We could also make one of these broadsword assault rifles. That's the sniper rifle. For now, let's queue up a couple of these grenades. We need hydrogen in here that we don't have currently. So let's go ahead and toss some hydrogen in. That'll do. Alright, let's begin crafting these grenades. Now these swordbreaker grenades will be very, very helpful for us, because as I said, the military installations are not favorable to us. And so for us to be able to operate within them, we're going to need to be able to handle the turrets. So we'll go ahead and start prepping. So my son has just let me know that I need to assist my wife. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up processing all of this stuff into useful materials. And then we will come back and I will do a final wrap up for the session here. And that will be that. So our next video, I think, is going to be based around taking on a military facility. So I will be right back once we've got this all taken care of. Alright, welcome back from the final cut. And this is what we ended up with after refining all of the materials that we had on hand. That is a pretty good haul when you get down to it. We can actually pull back the resources that we distributed around the station to various different parts. So that way we can see where all of this leaves us resources wise. Okay, and $62.2, so we'll leave that at 100, leave that there. Nitrogen, we will send it all. Oops, that's 9. 6.6, nope, 6.6, and that, and then we'll send 300 nitrogen back. Okay, so we have 300 nitrogen and 100 of those various different ones there. So that's like a little reserve that we have, but you can see now we have a very strong reserve of materials. But this 6K cap is kind of cramping our style, and all of our ships, all of our components are pretty much stocked full of the resources that they can carry, with the exception of that I have not filled up the hydrogen engines on the ship because that's extremely dangerous and I don't want to do it. So that puts us in a pretty good place in terms of resources. Now we just need to take the time to put together our next goal. For me, the next goal is going to be getting enough resources so that I can make some additional fuel cells. I'm down to 5 fully charged fuel cells. I have 3 over here. I expended those other circuits that we'd gotten from raiding the installation for in the previous episode. I used those to make 3 Swordbreaker EMP grenades, which we're going to use when we go after military stations. But we need to start deciding what our longer-term goals are going to be. I'd like to add a few more components to the station as well, mostly in the form of passive power units like the solar panel modules, as well as adding an additional airlock so that I can get out of the station when I have my ship docked more easily, because I don't want to have to depressurize this room because that would be a major pain in the butt. So those are the things that are on our list for activities to get done. We also need to fully stock our armory with weapons and ammunition, which is something that we'll probably go to the military stations for in order to really get a good supply of weapons and equipment. But all of that will be in the next episode. I'm going to go ahead and power all this stuff down. We're going to call it a night, and I'm thinking that I might try to do a live event this weekend, and that would be the weekend of what is it? That would be March either 17th or 18th. I'm probably going to try and do either a live stream, or for those of you that are community members, I'll put up my Discord information. If I put up an announcement, I'll put up the Discord information in it, and you'll be able to join my Discord and have a conversation with me, or even engage in the process. You know, come on the server and join and have a little fun with our station here, because it is sort of our station. I might sort of get a secondary station and park it in close orbit and make that the community station, but it can be a little bit of both. We'll see. But until next time, I hope that you've been enjoying. Please like and subscribe. Turn on notifications if you want to be invited to the event this weekend, assuming that I am able to put together enough time to actually do it. Do a repair here. But assuming that I'm able to get that done, then we will go ahead and put together a group event starting this weekend. Until next time, I'm Wrath. I hope that you have enjoyed the content that I'm making, and I will catch you on the flip side. Let me just, I'm actually going to take the time here to go through my whole closing down process so that you can see it, because some people have asked to see everything that I do in order to make sure that my station doesn't blow up while I'm offline or go to crap. So first we'll put that there. Do a quick repair. Come on. There we go. Alright, quick little repair there. So basically I'm just going through each of my rooms real quick and doing a fast repair. Most of them are already at 100%, so I don't technically have to do this because it's already been done. I'll leave that one. It's fine. The system says it's at 100%, so we'll assume that that's correct and not bugged out in some way. So then the final chamber is here. Ooh, I just got really dizzy. Final chamber is over here, which is our outpost module. And these outpost modules should never be underestimated because they are actually very, very useful and very, very robust. Which is one of the reasons why you should never, ever get rid of one. And if you can steal one and add multiples to your station without other people getting access to it, then more power to you, because that's more that you can get done. Let's close that. Alright, so that's everything. So now we're going to button up for the night. Go ahead and get in here and make sure that all the life supports are turned off. And we'll go ahead and start powering down all of the station. Power everything down. And then we'll go ahead and pull in, shut down all the power generation. And that will put everything to rest. The reason that I shut everything down, including the power generation, is because as long as there's no power going through it, their deterioration rate is reduced to its smallest level, and therefore you're not going to have as much deterioration while you're offline. So like a fully powered up unit not doing anything will deteriorate in roughly about 3 days. But if your station is completely powered down, everything shut off, you can go 5 to 7 days without having any modules become critical. So that is the learning tip of the day. And until next time, I will catch you on the flip side. Peace.